and welcome to a presentation by Dr. Nancy Bates on how gymnastics actually helps your child build a better brain. First, of course, as we're going to come back into the gymnastics centers, we need to make sure that, of course, we're keeping our kids safe from COVID-19 and how we can help them prepare. So gymnastics centers around North America have been working on all of their protocols, and they're exceeding the health recommendations because we know how important it is for children to participate in gymnastics and in sports. And we also understand that brain development, neurodevelopment, is guided by movement. So it's our job to make that happen. So understanding the brain helps us understand the importance of gymnastics. The brain is not complete at birth. We only have survival systems at that time. So the brain must develop connections or synapses between the neurons. Connections are dependent on our experiences and our environment. And connections are tagged with emotional content. So that triggers our limbic system. But that's where the fun we have in gymnastics helps to create those connections. So survival and security are the brain's first job, and we have those skills relatively early. And movement guides and organizes our brain development. So it's kind of like the more we move and the more active we are, the more we repeat certain movements, the better organized our filing cabinet gets. Children, of course, learn through play because it's enjoyable, which stimulates repetition, which builds patterned neural activity, and therefore we are learning and wiring our brain. The thinking part of the human brain is built after we're born. So our genes provide the basic blueprint, but experiences shape the process that determines whether a child's brain will develop a strong or weak foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. The human brain is built, not born, and gymnastics centers are part of this brain construction. Sensory input is the brain's window into the outside world, used to connect to others and within ourselves, and used to connect to a higher brain. The limbic system regulates emotions, wires very early, and also tags strong experiences with emotional tags. So they're, again, tied to security and survival. Now know that the emotional content affects quality of connections to the cortex, the higher brain, where thinking and judgments occur. That we use those parts for planning, memory storage, and understanding consequences. The human brain is a mixture of hardware and software, and gyms work on both. The hardware, our DNA, lays down basic functions to sustain life. The software is the trillions of connections built during the first year of life and after, determined by stimulation received in the first years and throughout adulthood. So what we're exposed to. Early experiences actually help shape our brain. And remember, the human brain is built, not born. So gymnastics is the perfect activity. It teaches complex movement, so it shifts the focus of the brain from brain stem, or just basic level, the survival instincts, to motor planning. And motor planning involves conscious attention, most complex sensory integrative function, and is closely linked to the child's intellectual brain functions. Motor planning is a bridge between the sensory and motor and intellectual aspects of brain function. And gymnastics builds interconnections between neurons, which also lay the groundwork for intellectual development, such as reading and math. Today's kids need more, especially as we're going through this pandemic. Movement that uses both sides of the body together and separately, such as in gymnastics, dance, swimming, and ninja. So using the body on both sides, either one at a time or crossing the plane, as we're going to get into next, dramatically has an effect on the child's brain. Movement that crosses the midline, the imaginary line down the center of your body, which develops good communication between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. via the corpus callosum. Balance, of course, requires the vestibular system and its connections to the cerebellum and then the higher brain centers. And motor planning, plus lots of repetitions for added brain development. It bridges the sensory motor systems with intellectual aspects. What are some of the benefits of gymnastics? So let's just think of a few. So balance beams, it's going to develop and enhance more balance. And remember, we've already talked about how that plays an effect on the brain. Beanbag tosses for eye tracking and vision. Trampolines for vestibular stimulation and proprioceptive information on the joints. It provides fun while introducing structure and following directions from another adult, so it starts to develop their executive functions. Proprioceptive heaven, the running, jumping, rolling, everything gymnastics does involves proprioception. Eye tracking is a big issue with so much time spent in front of TVs and computers or games. So eye tracking is necessary for reading and math. Toss and catch lightweight balls, bean bags, or scarves for the little ones provides games, looking near and far, and used in desk and blackboard work. Teaching the circle 8, like a sideways 8 or the infinity sign, crosses the midline of the body and uses eye tracking to follow. Builds connections between brain hemispheres necessary for reading and writing. Movement connects to sensory input. We now know that movement affects learning, behavior, communication, relationships, and emotional well-being. Parents want their children to be happy and successful, and movement programs provide this opportunity for growth. Sensory processing. We experience our world through our senses, and there are 5 of them. Senses inform us about our external world and our internal world as well. Sensory input travels to the brain for integration or meaning. Sensory input activates primitive reflexes in infants. Our most important senses are gravity and balance, part of the vestibular system, and gymnastics, of course, stimulates both. Sensory integration involves 3 basic senses: tactile, what we touch and feel; vestibular, the information that our body is gathering as we're moving; and proprioceptive. The vestibular system is the hub for our senses. It integrates vision, hearing, balance, and skin sensations. It detects movement and a tilt of the head, so control of their head and brain development. Inner ear affected by force of gravity, so like what you feel when the elevator is moving. Looks like a gyroscope, 3-dimensional canals. Controls our sense of balance and movement of the head. And it's the first sense to fully myelinate, starts at 7 weeks gestation. 4 main domains in child development are social and emotional, cognitive, speech and language, gross motor, and fine motor. Before any of the above can happen, sensory systems need to interact with the vestibular system, which is connected to the brainstem, cerebellum, and primitive reflexes, which brings the cortex online. So that's our higher brain systems. Movement programs impact all 4 main areas. Social and emotional, they learn to take turns, build friendships, life skills in a fun, engaging environment filled with play. Cognitive, movement builds brain architecture and a higher brain. Speech and language, cerebellum and movement are involved. Gross motor and fine motor, it's movement heaven. We know we already talked about that. Gymnastics actually affects each of these categories and in ways that traditional schools cannot. Executive function or self-regulation. So what is that? It enables us to plan and focus our attention and remember instructions. It enables us to manage distractions and prioritize tasks and make friends. Executive function depends on 3 skills: our working memory, ability to remember information for a short period of time; self-control, ability to take turns, resist impulsive acts, and our inhibitions; and mental flexibility, the ability to accept change and shift attention. They are all crucial for learning and succeeding in life. Executive function is developed. We are not born with it, only the potential to develop executive function. Mature executive function is what all parents want for their children. It is the foundation for success in life because it affects friendships, learning, and even academics. What our gymnastics class fills with? Opportunities to develop executive function. So remember, these skills are crucial for learning and succeeding in life. Let's look at gymnastics class components that directly develop executive function. First, the setup. Let's set up rules to follow, requires working memory and inhibitory control, so self-control, to follow the rules. Then we add freeze games. So again, self-control develops inhibition and flexibility. And 3, we use our head, shoulders, knees, and toes song games that have many movements. They must attend to the song's words and then hold them in working memory and must pay attention to those words. Few more gymnastic skills that directly develop executive function. Walking on a balance beam, rolling down inclines, jumping, forward rolls, backward rolls, bouncing on trampolines. Taking turns helps kids later on in school, helps develop executive function as it requires self-control, inhibitory action, and flexibility. Other class components which affect behavior and development. Patterns and repetitions, they develop self-confidence. Inhibitory games, start and stop games, develop executive function. Right and left brain integration, so lazy eights, cross crawls, crossing the midline, etc. Timing and sequencing activities, this helps them with organizing and connecting. Sound and music is calming, brings in other parts of the brain, and helps us to coordinate that information. Heavy work, there's pushing, pulling, parasympathetic, and it's calming. Lots of things going on during those heavy workouts. And lots of movement. Gymnastics is best at this. Gymnastics, swimming, dance, cheer, and ninja. Movement is the foundation for learning and brain development and teaching life skills. Register now at your local gym club and help your child continue to thrive. This was a presentation by Dr. Nancy Bates, and she's the owner of Gym Magic Kids. And there's information there. If you have any questions at all, she would be happy to answer them for you. So reach out to your local gymnastics center and just see what they've got available for you and how they're managing COVID. Thank you.